Hello. All
Hey.
right. So I know that today is kind of a weird. All right. Oh, hang on one second. So I know that today is kind of a I've got weird... some. All right. Okay. I've got some weird echoing going on. Give me just a second here. Okay, I think I fixed it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think everything's good.
Okay, awesome. So, I know this is a weird time. I do want to point out I am recording this, but also my screen is being live streamed to the Facebook group um, in case there are people that do not wish to actively participate but more just want to watch. But your screen should not be people that do not wish anybody to actively... any participants, their screen will not be showing in the Facebook group, but they may be able to hear your voice. Cool. So I usually give it another 2 minutes or so for last minute stragglers to show up. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's the fluting going?
Fluting is going well.
Awesome. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying a new setup with live streaming this so that it gets a little bit more reach for those that just don't want to be in the meeting, because I found that was some feedback that I got was essentially some feedback that I got was that some people don't necessarily want to actively have a conversation, which I totally get. More want to just listen and hang out. So today is obviously a little bit different. We're going to talk about intermediate self-study and methods books and things that we can do. And I have a lot. But I'm sure, Chris, you've got probably a bunch on your own, right?
I do.
Yeah. So feel free to chime in at any time if if there's something that I have missed. And there's one book in particular that I want to mention that I haven't gotten a chance to pick up, but I had a teacher actually reach out to me and say, hey, I wrote this book specifically for this purpose, so I want to make sure that I don't forget to mention it. Hello!
Hi.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I was just mentioning this meeting is being recorded because I do want to post a copy of it in the group. It is also, I'm doing things a little bit differently now where my screen is being live streamed so that I can get a little bit more reach, and certain people that don't want to actually participate directly in the meeting can still watch and get something out of it. So it is being live streamed to the group. And on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. So, how is everybody?
I'm good.
Good. All right, so today...
I haven't been here before, so I'm Marion. I just wanted to say hi.
Nice to meet you, Marion. Well, I'm Cassie. This one's a little bit different than our normal practice sessions. Normally I have like a little slide presentation and stuff, but I kind of felt like this was a meeting where I didn't necessarily need to do that because we are going to talk about books that we can use for self-study, mostly focusing on intermediate. Now, I am going to jump a little bit into some beginner stuff, and I'm also going to jump a little bit into some bordering on advanced stuff. So I want to go ahead and talk first and foremost. There is a book that this is actually pretty wonderful. I picked this book up recently because I wanted to see what it was all about, particularly with how it might apply to this group. And this is a great book. If you're, do you have this one? This is a great book as far as kind of jumping back into it. Most flutists, I feel like, will progress through it pretty quickly, but they talk about a lot of the same stuff that I talk about: long tones, overtones, some scale work, and then jumping into some repertoire. Kind of.
What's the name of that book?
This one is called I Used to Play Flute.
Okay.
So this is specifically for adults that played flute for, in high school, that quit and are jumping back into it. Like I said, most of it is repertoire. We've got like Amazing Grace, we've got The Tide is High, I Will Always Love You, Can, all that good stuff. Stars and Stripes Forever. Interesting. Doesn't look like the piccolo solos in here, so. But this is a great one, like I said, for kind of jumping back into it slowly, because this will kind of go through all of the basics and then get you back through some repertoire. So this is a great one specifically for this group.
That piccolo solo was an awesome memory for me.
Oh yeah, it's something else. I watched a video recently where they had like 6 piccolos doing the solo at once, and I'm like, whew, I don't know if I'd want to participate in that. I think I would just say, no, I'm okay.
We had our tuba player transpose it, and he played the solo one time.
Oh, that's fun.
It was crazy.
Aw, that's super fun. So, as far as other like self-study books, and I said I was going to mention some that are a little bit more on the beginner side. This book is actually written by Karen North. She is in our group. So if you have questions about this particular book, the young flute player, or the young at heart flute player, which I love that. This is a little bit more on the beginner side. I mean, it really does start from the beginning. Very basic fingerings. And it goes in units, which I actually really like. So units as far as like actually learning to read music, head joint exercises, basic fingering. So if you're looking for something that is very, very, very start at the beginning, the young at heart flute player, this is specifically geared towards adult learners. This is awesome. So I wanted to mention those two specifically, a little bit more on the beginner side or on the I'm just jumping back into it, because those are fantastic. So I'm going to take a poll real fast. Would you rather talk about, right now, repertoire books, etude books, or like actual method books right this second?
I would like method books.
Method? Okay,
yeah.
We can start with some method books. All right. Because I have it all. I am ready for it all. So, I will say that as much as I'm not a huge fan of some of Trevor Wye's beginner stuff, he's a little dry. The Beginner's Book Part 2 is actually pretty good for intermediates. This really is jumping into some more complicated topics, more complicated scale patterns, all that good stuff. It even starts jumping into different time, 6/8, all that good stuff. As you can see, it just gets a little bit more complex than the first one, and we start going into long tones, even start talking about some tone color. So, the Beginner Book for the Flute, Part 2, is a great place to start as an intermediate self-study, working your way through. Now, again, Trevor White, especially in the beginner book, in my opinion, can be a little dry. I don't love using this book for kids. It's not my favorite because it's just a little on the boring side. Typically speaking, I will use the Kathy Blocky books. I don't have any students that have worked their way through into like intermediate Kathy Blocky, so I can't really speak to her intermediate stuff, but in her beginner books, they are fabulous. And then again, you start getting into like minor scales, so, scale exercise in A minor, canon for 2, all that good stuff. Now, of course, indispensable scales, exercise, and etudes for the developing flutist. This book's a little bit harder to find, honestly. I've had students that have tried to get copies of this, and it's just kind of hard to find. It's a Mel Bay, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mel Bay. Does Mel Bay even still produce books? I'm not really sure. But Mel Bay used to be kind of the leading, like, method book publisher. That's the word I'm looking for. And they have come out with a lot of stuff, including some good repertoire books. But this book in particular, I do really like because it has a nice intermediate breakdown of scales. So I think Paris Scales is great. That's another one that people often use, but it can be a little bit overwhelming for like the late beginner, early intermediate. But this just kind of walks you through. I mean, you can pick and choose. So with my like late beginner, intermediate students, I might start, okay, let's do just the C major scale, maybe the arpeggio, but we don't have to really go beyond that. But it goes all the way to the extended scale, right? And then it has our minor scale, so A natural minor, A harmonic minor, A melodic minor. So you can get as simple or as complicated as you want with this book, in my opinion. So you can see I do still teach out of it. I've got students marked in here. And then as you progress through, so it's got a double page for each scale, but then it has this nice little C, B flat, B, E flat. It has literally all the scales written in a single octave here. I love that. That is great for all students. And then it does the same with minor scales. It does the same with whole tone. So, once you start getting into whole tone exercises, which those are going to be a little bit later on, but it has different scale patterns, 3 octave scales, and then etudes at the back. So this is, in my opinion, you can start on this book late beginner, and as you get towards the back of the book, you're definitely getting more intense. So that's one of the reasons why I really like this one. It is very progressive in the way that it is structured, and you can pick and choose what you need from it. So I do like this one a lot. And then, of course, we talked for a whole hour on the Trevor Y practice books for the flute. These can be super overwhelming. But the omnibus version, you can kind of choose. The way that I put it last week is you can choose your own adventure. You can, kind of pick what you feel like you need to work on and start at the beginning, work the program. Again, these are definitely more intense than the beginner books, but there's a lot of great stuff in here. Now, I would highly recommend, if you are overwhelmed by all this text, all of this stuff, start with the tone book. Make sure that you read each section before you just jump into the exercises. But this is, I usually start my intermediate students here. And this is a book that you will work on forever. So this is a fantastic, and he writes in enough text that you can self-study. I do recommend having somebody on standby, if you have a teacher, to be able to ask questions to when you do run into something, because sometimes he assumes some knowledge, in my opinion. So there are some spots where you might be like, what does he mean? So having somebody to ask is very helpful, but for the most part, he writes a lot of text with this stuff. So, he was very conscious of the fact that he may have some self-studiers using this book. It's about time to replace my copy. This thing's like 15 plus years old, and the binding just did something funky. All right. With that, here is kind of the companion to that, which is pretty much all written text. It's called Proper Flute Playing. He references back and forth several times in the practice book. So if you're looking for something to read along with it, this is great. Proper Flute Playing by Trevor Y. And I'm going to have to fix my book later. Look at what it did. This is the downside to spiral binding, guys. Oh, I think it fixed itself. We'll go with it. All right. So, I do also recommend, even as a self-studier, I do highly recommend having an etude practice. Etudes are, so etude means study in French, and basically it's a melodic piece that is written to teach you something with a specific idea in mind, okay? Now, I always used the melodious and progressive etudes, which are incredible, super helpful. There's tons of books. I think there's 4 of them. And, it'll take you a long time to work through those. But I actually recently discovered these books for my students. So it's 76 Graded Studies for Flute, Book 1 and Book 2. Most of my students are still in Book 1 because there are 76 of them. And I typically have my students work on 1 per week. So you've got more than a year's worth of studies in these books. There's about 50, there's 54 in this book, and then the rest, the other 22 are in this book. And so with that in mind, these start very easy, right? So if you look, it's half notes, right? Super easy. So some of my students don't start at the beginning, obviously. But as you progress, you start to get, more difficult. So, we're at 22 here. These are definitely a little bit more on the difficult side. So these are extremely progressive, and working your way slowly through these, each one is designed to teach you something, right? And even if you've already learned the concept, re-reviewing the ones at the beginning are a great way to build some chops, even if you feel like they're a little beyond you. And feel free to stop me if you have questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wondered where you get your books. Do you get them at a specific bookstore or online, or?
Mostly online. So these came from Amazon, and as much as I'm not a big fan of, supporting large places like that, they're still, sometimes that's the best place to find books. So Amazon, but also Flute World, Sheet Music Plus. Those are all places that you can find. Groth Music, Groth Music, has had quite a few. Specifically the melodious and progressive, because some of those are harder to find these days. Now, again, I think that those are a little bit more on the advanced side. So those are like, I would start those at like late intermediate. But these came from Amazon. And the Trevor Wise, those can come from Amazon as well. And I believe Karen North also sells her stuff on Amazon too. But I'm going to have to ask her in the group, like, what benefits her more if we buying directly from her or buying off Amazon, because I do want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing by, musicians and whatnot. And I know that some places take more fees. So I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry. So having an etude practice, this is a good thing. Again, each etude is designed to teach you something. It's designed to work on a specific skill. And with that in mind, working through an etude a week, or if you really can't master it, for 2 weeks, and then moving on, you will learn things fast. This is honestly one of the best ways that, when I wasn't with a teacher, the best ways that I continued learning and continued, building my chops was to have a weekly etude practice. And to have an etude regimen. So, highly recommend 76 Graded Studies for the Flute, Book 1 and Book 2. And then, of course, Melodious and Progressive. Once you start getting to the end of these, Melodious and Progressive, Books 1 through 4 are the way to go. And they will get progressively more difficult over the course. But that's the point, right? To get progressively more difficult, to challenge ourselves, and to not be bored, too. Okay. So, next I want to talk about I want to get into repertoire books, but I want to talk a little bit about things that are a little off the path, if you will. So we want to make flute fun, right? And the ways that we can do that would be to improv, do jazz, play pop pieces, play things that we like. And if you have questions, feel free to just interrupt me. That is totally okay, by the way. One of the things that there's an app called Tom Play, which is fabulous. It's a lot of pop music, but it also has some classical, it also has some jazz. But basically it gives you the music and some backing tracks. So even Piazzolla's Cafe Night.
It's kind of expensive, though.
It is a little bit on the expensive side. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it's worth it. At least for me, because I do use it all the time. But if you're not using it all the time, it is expensive. But that's a great app if you want to play along with pop pieces. If you want, to change things up, that is a great place to go, because you can pick beginner, intermediate, advanced. You can choose your level, which is very nice. But there's also other things that you can do. Beginner jazz soloing for flute. So I'm not a jazz player, and one of the reasons why I own this is because I want to learn to be a jazz player. I want to play more jazz. So I bought the beginner book, because why not? I might not be a beginner player, but I am beginner at jazz soloing. So, this is fantastic. It is a very good, walkthrough. Yeah. So it talks about playing by ear. It talks about, minor pentatonic scales. But this is a great, not intimidating book if you want to get into jazz. And it does have audio examples. The other thing that you could do if you want to get into jazz specifically, there is also another app called iReal Pro. It's not that expensive. It's like $20, just a flat fee. It's not a monthly subscription. You just buy it directly out of the App Store. And it's essentially just backing, like jazz backing tracks, but it gives you the chords that they're playing at any given time. And you can really learn to improv over that. You can learn to solo. And I think that's really cool. I try to solo and improv at least like 10 minutes at the end of every practice session for me. It's a nice, like, break it up and also kind of cool down. So this is a nice way to add something different, right? Sometimes we get stuck in these ways of like, oh, I need to make sure that I specifically have, a technical exercise and an etude and tone practice and, articulation practice. And then I need to be practicing these specific pieces. I get stuck in that routine too, where I go, well, I need to practice. I need to make sure that I'm working diligently on these things. And then I burn myself out, right? Because even though I love the pieces that I'm playing, I'm working really hard on them, and I'm not giving myself a chance to just play, right? Because there's a difference between playing and practicing, right? Playing is for enjoyment. Playing is just doing, whereas practicing is structured work on something. So adding something like this into your regimen is a great way to kind of break things like that up. I also recommend, if you're into orchestral music, orchestral excerpts for the flute. There's a couple of these books. So Jeannie Baxtresser was the former principal at the New York Phil. She put, I think it's 3 total books of orchestral excerpts together. So you can see they're pretty short. Some of them are pretty difficult. But orchestral excerpts are a great way to, again, break up your practice and play something familiar and maybe something that you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to play outside of an orchestra. So again, these are a little bit on the advanced side. These are definitely more difficult, but building, orchestral excerpts into your practice is super helpful, and it's a nice way to break up a practice session. And if you're ever doing auditions, they are likely to come out, honestly, directly out of this book. Even like the military bands, which I was looking at for quite a while, their excerpts are literally copied directly out of this book. So if you're ever looking to take auditions at any point for any sort of, local community orchestra or anything like that, I don't know. Our community orchestra does do auditions specifically for winds because they want to keep it small. But this is a great way to be prepared for that. And then, of course, repertoire. Repertoire is super fun. Now, of course, in my opinion, repertoire ends up being about 10% of what we do. 90% ends up being everything else. But there are some great pieces that we can work on as intermediate players and getting into advanced. So the Soloist Folio, this one's been around for quite a while. It starts out pretty simple. Again, these are pretty progressive. So, we start out fairly simple, and then by the end, we're getting into a little bit more difficult, right? So this is where I would maybe start if you're kind of, beginner, middle beginner. This would be a great place to start and work your way through. Or just kind of pick pieces throughout. For my students, I have one of my students working on the Debussy Reverie because we are learning to be dramatic. We're learning to be musical. And this is a great piece for learning to be musical while also working on our high notes. But I have, other students that are working on, the Bourrée and Minuet. So it kind of depends on what you want to do, but this is a great book. It normally has a piano part with it if you buy it on, again, Amazon. And the book is orange and white. So I don't have that. I took the piano part over to my pianist's house. So she has it. Not me, sorry. Another great one would be Flute Classics. The Library of Flute Classics. Now this is a pretty thick book. It's not written in a progressive order, so you would have to kind of go through and decide what's going to work for you. But these are the classics. So we've got, Scherzo from A Midsummer Night's Dream. We've got On the Wings of Song. We have, we've got Reverie, Prelude, The Afternoon of the Faun. So these can be a little bit on the advanced side. So choosing wisely what you're going to work on. I have one student that's working on the Habanera. And let's see. Oh yeah, we've even got cadenzas from Mozart concertos. So this can get a little bit complex, but over and all, this is a great one just to keep in your library. So Flute Classics, it does come with a piano part. It's a pretty thick book. There is one more that I meant to grab that I didn't. It is called the Concert and Contest Collection. And it is a white book with a red square on the front. But it's a Concert and Contest Collection. Often there are lots of pieces that are used for auditions out of that book. It's kind of it's a late intermediate repertoire book, getting into advanced. So, we've got Syrinx in that one. We've got, trying to think what else. Oh, wait, no, Syrinx is not in that one. There's quite a few good ones in that book. Oh, Bach. The B minor. Is in that one. Sorry, I'm blanking because I don't have it in front of me and I meant to grab it. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay, cool. So, other things that you can do, we don't always have to play, classical pieces, right? I mentioned this earlier. This does not have to be something that we, are strict to, especially if you are a hobby player. There is no need to completely box yourself in. There's so much that we can do with flute. One of the books that I do really like, 101 Popular Songs, Hal Leonard. These are, I would say most of them are late beginner, early intermediate, but there's some syncopation and there's some good rhythmic stuff in here. We've got Sweet Home Alabama, Take Me Home Country Roads, Physical, Piano Man, all kinds of great things in here. And then, of course, am I frozen? Huh. I'm looking frozen on my screen. We've got all kinds of great things here. 101 hit songs, also great, same kind of thing. These are a little bit newer. Well, I guess except Losing My Religion, that seems a little bit more on the verge of classic. We've got Adele, we have, let's see, Coldplay, and of course there's always Disney, all that good stuff. So playing things that you like is super important, right? We want to enjoy it. We want to make sure that we're playing things that we like. So if you're kind of over the whole, playing all the classical pieces and playing what you're supposed to play, that is 100% okay. You can break it up with things. You can play the hit songs. You can play the popular songs. That's awesome. And I love that. I have my students pick these all the time. The way that I typically balance it, especially with my younger students, is I will have them play working on one classical piece, right? One of our standard repertoire, and then they get to pick one hit song. And they usually rotate through these a little bit quicker because these are a little bit easier most of the time than the standard repertoire pieces that I'm asking them to play. But this is for fun. I had somebody pick a Nirvana piece the other day. And it's awesome. I love that. And they have fun. I have fun. And yeah, so you deserve to have fun. So if this is fun for you, don't feel weird about doing that. Some people feel really weird about playing pop pieces on their instrument. And it's nothing to feel weird about. It's you enjoying your instrument. So, awesome. Did I miss anything? Are there things specifically that you wanted me to touch on that I haven't so far? Everybody's feeling pretty good? Awesome. All right. Well, yay, we actually ended my talking in enough time to do a little warm-up today. We didn't really get much of a chance to last week because Trevor Y is a very, very large subject. So I will say one thing. I'm also in the coming weeks, I will try to rotate at least one of these sessions a month to like a Saturday or another random day or time so that, some of you that can't participate on Thursday nights can actually make it, because I love having you guys at the live sessions. But also, I'm going to limit the book talk to about one a month. Because I do love talking about books, but I want to make sure, I know that there were a few people that didn't love the fact that we did 2 back-to-back book talks, right? So I'm going to limit those to one a month, but I will make sure that I'm still letting you guys vote on the topic. If it ends up being, that back-to-back every so often we have 2 book talks, that's okay, but for the most part, we're going to try to limit it to one a month for the book reviews. So, what do you say we warm up? Everybody feel good about that? All right. So we're going to stretch a little bit before we grab our flute. We're going to reach all the way up. I like that, Chris. The fingers. That's good. All right. Make a T with your arms. Try to pinch a pencil in between your shoulder blades. You should feel a really good stretch in your shoulders. Remember, there is definitely a difference between the feel of stretching and pain. If you're feeling pain, sit it out, right? Okay. All right. Now we're going to put our fingers together, and we're just going to tap one at a time, back and forth. Whoop. Sometimes I like to repeat fingers, apparently. This is not the easiest thing to do, so don't feel bad if you're...
Am I doing this correctly? Because, Cassie, you're still frozen for me, and I can't see what you're
doing. Am I still frozen?
Yeah, you've been frozen for a while.
Okay. Hang on one second. Okay, I had to switch my camera. Sorry. All right. This is how we did this. Nice job. All right, shake the hands out. All right, so we're going to do the really awesome thing that I'm just so pumped to be live streaming. So we're going to squish our faces together like this, and then we're going to go stick your tongue out and everything. All right, I'm going to stop doing that while I'm being broadcast to the internet. Okay, let's grab our flutes. Alrighty. I like how, well, so Trevor Y does kind of make fun of us when we do this. So he's like, that does nothing, but I still do it. I can't not, there's something that was drilled into my brain that doing that will make it sound better. And even though Trevor Y says it doesn't, I'm still going to do it. All right. We are going to start on a B natural. And we're going to do some long tones. So we're going to go B natural, B flat, hold. Okay? And I know that right now I'm sitting. I know that some of you also might be sitting. If you can't hold it that long, that is 100% okay. B flat, A. A flat. Actually gonna scoot a little bit this way. And remember, what we're doing is we're listening as we're going through this. We're making sure that we are matching our tone on the current note to the previous note. Okay, the tone quality, the tone color, the volume, all need to be the same. As we're descending, we are aiming our airstream down towards the floor. Beautiful. Now, we're going to run a very, very, very slow chromatic scale, running from our low C up to the C above the staff. Then we're going to pause and we're going to talk. So here's the thing that I want you to focus on while we're doing this. I want you to think about tension in your fingers. If you feel yourself starting to clench, if you feel yourself holding your keys down heavily, we want to make sure that we're actively releasing that, going loose, keeping our hands in a natural position, curved but not tight, right? Almost like we're holding a stress ball. I also want you to consider tension in your jaw and in your throat. So this is a lot of things to keep in mind, but we are working to actively release tension as we are moving through the slow chromatic scale, okay? So we're going to go real slow. We're going to go da, 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 okay? Well, I guess that wasn't chromatic, but you know what I mean. Breathe. Breathe. Pause. Breathe. Remember our tension. Think about the tension here. So this is a big spot where we hold tension. It's right here in the throat. Okay? And you can release it by opening, dropping the jaw. You see how I went from kind of closed to open? Thinking of big O, ooh. Vowels that we're not used to making in the English language as much. So pretend to be French. Ooh. All right. We're going to start back at that C above the staff, and we're going to work our way back down. Breathe. 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 Beautiful. I love it. All right, so I know I talked a lot during that warm-up because I am very focused on tension this week because we've got to be, in order to be fast players, in order to be resonant players, we have to let go of the tension in our bodies. And the tension is our body's way of trying to help us, right? So we have this tendency to want to clam up, and because something's going to be hard, and so we squeeze and we go, oh, I gotta bring my shoulders up. I gotta squeeze my fingers because, of course, activating those muscles is going to help me be fast. That's not the case. If we let go, then we're able to move quickly, right? So if you tense up your muscles, you can't move fast, right? But if you let go. So that's my big focus this week, so I wanted to bring that to our warm-up. Being loose, letting go, telling our bodies that we don't need your help. We've got this. And just kind of letting things go. So the way that we usually do this is the last 10-15 minutes, we all mute, we practice what we want to practice, and then you can ask questions as they come up in your practice. So if you are working on a Trevor Y, or you're working on a piece of repertoire, or whatever you're working on, if you have questions that come up during that practice time, unmute and ask away, okay? Awesome. All right, friends. So, last 3 minutes. I did just comment in the Facebook group. The best way to get questions actively answered, because I had a lot of people commenting on the live stream in Facebook, and this is kind of something that I'm working through the kinks on, but the best way to get question answered in real time would definitely be to like actually be part of the Zoom meeting as opposed to watching in real time on Facebook, because I won't be able to answer questions in real time in the Facebook group, all that good stuff. But yeah, so this is awesome. Does anybody have any questions so far? Nope. Feeling pretty good. I'm going to check the Facebook real fast. Just to make sure. Feeling pretty good. I'm going to check the Facebook real fast. And I do want to real fast talk about things that are coming up. We will go back to normal Thursday night practice sessions. This was kind of one of those weird days where I was trying to work out the kinks in the live streaming process, and I just couldn't do it by Thursday, and I was frustrated, so I decided to take the day. And sometimes that's okay. Reminder, if you are frustrated by something, it is okay to take a day and just do something else. So we will go back to normal Thursday nights. I also have my workshop coming up. The registration does end tomorrow. That is Talent Tune-Up. That is where we basically go through from a broad scale, look at your practice routine, break it down into smaller parts, and then we workshop your practice routine to make it work for you and actually hitting goals and all that good stuff. This was something that I have come up with over time because my practice routine was terrible, and I was just like running through repertoire mindlessly and not doing what I needed to do and not progressing. So I want to talk to everybody about that. Again, the registration for that ends tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. It is $70 normally, but it's $40 for anybody in Flute Regroup, Flute Reboot. I have not eaten today, so my brain is fried currently. $40 for anybody in Flute Reboot. I also am hoping to start scheduling some live flute choir for beginners and intermediates. That will be super fun. And yeah, I'm accepting 5 more students into my private studio, and I'm still doing asynchronous lessons, all that good stuff. So if you want some extra, more than what we do on the Thursday nights, let me know and we will make it happen. But I really appreciate all of you that have come to this and keep checking things out and keep participating and keep showing up to become awesome flutists. You guys are awesome, and I'm just so proud of all of you. So, any other questions?
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you very much for offering this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I will keep offering this as long as people keep showing up. I'm good. I love doing this. I think that you guys are all just so inspiring. The fact that, again, like, you know, you're adults. Nobody's forcing you to do this, and I love it. I love that you keep showing up because you love the instrument, and so you guys are inspiring. So thank you, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye.